Greetings, my dear wizards, witches, muggles, and squibs. Today I have something truly disturbing. Ecristis. The name of a dark wizard. A name few remember. A solitary man, not exactly a party-goer like yours truly, decided to isolate himself on a remote island, far out in the North Sea. But apparently even he succumbed to that typical human desire for companionship, because he started making new friends. Now, when I say friends, I don't mean someone to enjoy a butterbeer or pumpkin juice with. No, he preferred the company of Dementors. I can only imagine the charm of their conversations. You heard me right, my dear viewers. I'm still your charming adventure wizard, Quentin Penterden, and in today's episode, we'll delve into one of the most intriguing and secret stories of the wizarding world. The legend of Ecristis and the founding of the most impenetrable of prisons, Azkaban. Azkaban. A name that strikes fear into the hearts of witches and wizards across the wizarding world. A prison, the darkest, most secure, and impenetrable of all. Yet hidden within its towering walls lies a forgotten story. The origins of this place, long before it became a prison, traced back to a dark wizard whose name has nearly been lost to time, even to the most skilled magical historians. The name he went by was Ecristis. Little is known about him, except that he was a dark wizard of immense power, whose depravity led him to cast curses so horrific they were deemed beyond the bounds of humanity. He is said to have lived around the 15th century, though little is known about his origins or background. Many historians have theorized that he hailed from Greece, a land long associated with wizards drawn to the dark arts. Greece was home to infamous figures such as Circe, the witch who enchanted sailors only to transform them into swine, and Herpo the Foul, a Parselmouth attributed with developing one of the darkest forms of magic, the Horcrux. Ecristis was said to have lived in a towering fortress in the cold, desolate waters of the North Sea. Whether he built the structure himself or stumbled upon it by chance remains a mystery, but one thing is certain. The island on which it stood was unlike any other. No known map, whether Muggle or wizarding, marked the existence of a location at those coordinates. It seems highly likely that such a place, along with its fortress, was either entirely conjured by magic or profoundly altered by it, a site never meant to be found. According to many, a spell of such magnitude could only be sustained through the control and manipulation of a specific type of energy, ancient magic. Alone in the vast expanse of the ocean, Ecristis ruled as the sole and absolute master of the fortress, delving into dark magic and performing forbidden, primal rituals. Among his many sinister pursuits, one practice above all fascinated Ecristis. Every Muggle ship that, by misfortune, lost its course and drifted into his domain, becoming ensnared in the enchantments of those black waters, offered the wizard an opportunity to satisfy his insatiable hunger for dark magic. For this type of magic, unlike any other, exists solely in relation to others. Its essence lies in causing harm, or, as with Horcruxes, requiring an act of evil against another to come into being. Dark magic is never self-contained. And with so many starving, desperate sailors at his mercy, could Ecristis have possibly let such a precious opportunity slip away? Once within his territory, the Muggle sailors were lured in, compelled to dock. It's likely that, through a powerful enchantment, their eyes were deceived, seeing a lush green land surrounding a gleaming ivory tower instead of a dark, desolate mass of cold rocks overshadowed by a menacing black fortress. Who can say? Perhaps they died believing they had found paradise, but it's unlikely. Ecristis captured each one, subjecting them to the most unspeakable forms of torture that dark magic could conjure. Their agony, their screams, heard only by the cold waves of the ocean, stretched on for days, months, perhaps even years, until the final mercy of death claimed them at last. Many believe Ecristis acted out of pure sadism. Others suggest, as mentioned earlier, that it was simply his only means of expressing his nature as a dark wizard in such a desolate place. However, there is a more popular theory, perhaps the most plausible and truthful of all. He was performing his ultimate magic, the work of a lifetime, the culmination of years of study and experimentation, the conquest of human mortality. The dark magic to which the sailors were subjected slowly transformed their flesh into something beyond the physical. A magic so powerful and vile that it rendered their essence immortal and indestructible. As their identities faded, forgetting their loves, their children, even their names, a new being emerged, a creature neither living nor dead, sustained only by the most primal and profound of human emotions, fear. Superior to any other dark creature in the wizarding world and, as far as is known, perhaps the only beings gifted with eternal life, Ecrizdis gave them a new name, Dementors.
Dementors are among the foulest creatures that walk this earth. They infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope and happiness out of the air around them. Get too near a Dementor, and every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you. If it can, the Dementor will feed on you long enough to reduce you to something like itself, soulless and evil. You will be left with nothing but the worst experiences of your life, and you will just be an empty shell that lost its soul.
Years passed, long and relentless, and time took its toll. The dark wizard Ecrizdis exhaled his last breath, serene, surrounded by those he had come to call children. But with the death of the dark wizard, the magic that had imbued the fortress and the entire island began to fade. Over time, centuries later, the Ministry of Magic became aware of a place in the North Sea, a fortress that had never appeared on any map before. The wizards from the Ministry who set foot on the island to investigate later refused to publicly reveal what they had found inside the fortress. However, what was disclosed was the existence of creatures that haunted the place, beings unlike anything ever seen before. The wizards had been forced to flee, as none of their spells had proven even remotely effective against them. A name, they said, was carved in large runic letters on the ancient stone of the fortress: Azkaban. Many in positions of power believed that Azkaban was a place of pure evil, one that should be destroyed at all costs. Yet others feared what might become of the Dementors infesting the fortress if they were deprived of their home. Experts who had studied buildings shaped by dark magic argued that the fortress could very well take its own revenge on anyone foolish enough to try to destroy it. As a result, the fortress was abandoned for many years, left to the Dementors, who continued to breed and spread their malevolent influence.
Ah, there you are, my beloved viewers. Fear not, I'll be quicker than a golden snitch. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here for this episode of the Spellbook Chronicles. And if you think Quentin Pendragon is charming enough to deserve your generous support, you might consider leaving a like. And I highly recommend subscribing to the channel too, clicking the bell icon to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And why not, joining the channel to get priority access to every new video for just a couple of galleons. So, what are you waiting for?
As history progressed and the relationship between wizards and muggles grew increasingly difficult to manage, the International Statute of Secrecy became ever more stringent and unbreakable. The Ministry of Magic, concerned by the security risks posed by the small wizarding prisons scattered across the country, saw these institutions as problematic. Attempts by incarcerated witches and wizards to break out often resulted in explosive bangs, foul smells, and dazzling displays of magical light, disturbances that the ministry could no longer tolerate. Rawle, an authoritarian minister of magic who had risen to power on an anti-Muggle platform, capitalizing on the anger felt by much of the wizarding community at being forced into secrecy, immediately discarded the plans for a new prison and insisted on using Azkaban, the ancient, forgotten dark fortress in the cold waters of the north. Sadistic by nature, he claimed that the Dementors residing there were an advantage, suggesting they could be harnessed as immortal and untouchable guards, sparing the Ministry time, trouble, and expense. The presence of the Dementors, he argued, would ensure that no prisoners could ever escape, while simultaneously making the fortress far more secure than any new facilities could ever be. It was during this period that many magical researchers, with the support of the most skilled British aurors, studied the nature of the creatures. Although their true essence was never fully understood, their analysis revealed the existence of the only spell capable of countering them, the Patronus Charm.
This ancient and mysterious charm conjures a magical guardian, a projection of all your most positive feelings. The Patronus Charm is difficult, and many witches and wizards are unable to produce a full corporeal Patronus, a guardian which generally takes the shape of the animal with whom they share the deepest affinity. You may suspect, but you will never truly know what form your Patronus will take until you succeed in conjuring it.
Old woodcuts and scrolls reveal that the Patronus has been in use since ancient times. What is certain is that the charm was known in Greek antiquity, with the legendary wizard Andros the Invincible gaining fame for his ability to summon a Patronus as large as a giant. The charm has long been associated with those who fight for noble or righteous causes. For this reason, witches and wizards capable of producing corporeal Patronuses were often chosen for high office within the Wiesengarmot and the Ministry of Magic. According to legend, one of the most famous Patronuses of all time was a humble mouse belonging to a young wizard named Elias, who used it to fight against the power of the Dementors. Elias's village was being attacked by the wizard Razidian, who, likely once an Auror involved in the Azkaban investigations before turning to dark magic, had managed to control a large number of Dementors, making them his army. Despite the Patronus's diminutive size, the mouse radiated a brilliant light, halting Razidian's army as it nimbly darted through the ranks of fleeing villagers. Enraged, the Dark Wizard decided to confront the mouse directly, attempting to summon a Patronus of his own to ward it off. However, Razidian forgot a crucial detail. Only those pure of heart could produce a Patronus. In a historic turn of events, it was revealed what happened when a competent yet unworthy wizard attempted the charm. From Razidian's wand, maggots shot out, quickly devouring him as they consumed his entire body. But let us return to the prison. Despite opposition from many wizards, including experts on both Dementors and buildings steeped in dark magic like Azkaban, soon a steady stream of prisoners was placed in the fortress, but none ever emerged. Those who weren't mad and dangerous when they entered quickly became so. Over the generations, there had been no breakouts and no security breaches. The new prison seemed to be working well. It was only when Minister Eldritch Diggory visited the building himself that he realized the full extent of the conditions inside. Prisoners had been driven to madness, and a graveyard had been founded to accommodate those who had died of despair. Back in London, Diggory established a committee to explore alternatives to Azkaban, or, at the very least, to remove the Dementors as guards. Experts explained that the only reason the creatures were mostly confined to the island was that they were being provided with a constant supply of souls to feed on. Without prisoners, they were likely to abandon the fortress and head for the mainland. Despite this warning, the minister had been so horrified by the conditions inside Azkaban that he urged the committee to find alternatives. Before they could reach any decision, unfortunately, Diggory contracted dragonpox, and shortly after, he died. From that time until Kingsley Shacklebolt's tenure, no minister ever seriously considered closing Azkaban. They turned a blind eye to the inhumane conditions inside the fortress, with most of them justifying their stance by pointing to the prison's perfect record of keeping inmates securely locked away. Nearly 3 centuries passed before that record was broken. A young man, known as Barty Crouch Jr., was successfully smuggled out of the prison when his visiting mother exchanged places with him, something the blind and loveless Dementors could not detect and would never have expected. This escape was followed by another, even more ingenious and impressive, when Sirius Black managed to evade the Dementors single-handedly, although it is unclear how he did it. Many theorize that Black, an unregistered animagus, was able to slip past the guards thanks to the agility of his animal form. The weakness of the prison was demonstrated amply over the next few years when two mass breakouts occurred, both involving Death Eaters. By this time, the Dementors had pledged their allegiance to Voldemort, a Dark Lord who, in some way, might have reminded them of their ancient master, offering a scope and freedom they had never known before. Today, thanks to Minister Kingsley Shacklebolt, Azkaban has been definitively purged of Dementors. While it remains in use as a prison, the guards are now Aurors, who are regularly rotated from the mainland. Since this new system was introduced, there have been no further breakouts. But one question remains, to which almost no one knows the answer. Where are the Dementors now? What has become of them? It is a fascinating mystery to which I leave each of you to provide your own answer.
Spooky how the time flies when one is having fun, don't you think? But don't worry, my fearless viewers. There are still plenty more adventures that await you here on the Spellbook Chronicles. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated, as the wizarding world is full of surprises, and I can't wait to unveil them all to you. So, until next time.